All right, anyway, thank you so very much. It is now 7:18, and the White House says new tariff deals could be announced soon. This comes amid ongoing concern about the impact of the already existing tariffs on goods imported into the United States and those imported to other countries as well. For the latest on the tariff turmoil, expert Sveta Kalinska joins us now with more. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you did a lot of research into how people are responding to this. What did you find?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Right. The news has been trending. I mean, everyone's been talking about tariffs, not only in the U.S., but globally. But what I've been actually studying has been what have consumers been talking about in the U.S. specifically? What do really people think about it? How are they perceiving what's happening in the country, and how are we being perceived from abroad? What I found is actually several key, very interesting findings. I'll start off with the first one, which is, first and foremost, the conversations online by consumers in the U.S. have been actually tapering off, which means that while there's still a lot of interest and discussions about tariffs in general, consumers are now much more interested in understanding how those tariffs affect their day-to-day. So it's not anything about economy anymore. Now it's actually very personal. How is that going to affect them on an average daily basis? So the interesting findings also are that overall in the U.S., consumers have talked about China, China, China. Just about 35% of every single discussion happening on social media platforms is about China. So that leads us to understand that actually this administration and the perception that consumers have about this administration is that tariffs, and these tariffs are not just about global domination and the rest of the world. It's actually because they're targeting China specifically. And this is what consumers say online. So 35% of those consumers who went on a social media platform just in the last week and said that China is the reason why these tariffs are now happening is because the U.S. and this presidency actually believes in three almost retaliation paybacks. One of them, and the first one, is that COVID-19 started from China. So this is almost like a payback for the handling of this virus. There are serious concerns among U.S. consumers, believe it or not, about U.S. farmland ownership by Chinese stakeholders. So this almost like move by administration really comes to basically try to come back and seize most of the farmland. And the third one is, of course, one that I think is probably very well known, which is that the U.S. wants to be the super global influencer and economic power. So this is almost the way to weaken the Chinese economy.
So Sveta, I want to jump in real quick because I want to ask, as far as your research and your findings, for those who did respond and express concerns about the tariffs, what were their biggest concerns? Was it the stock market? Was it going to the grocery store? What stood out?
Oh, so many things were interesting in terms of what stood out, but here's what stood out the most. In the first week since the tariffs were announced, which was the first week of April, people were concerned, oh, what's going to happen to my gas, to my groceries when I go and buy a new iPhone, buy a new car? The administration must have heard those consumers, and I'm sure they're also doing social listening, because they actually went back and immediately announced that electronics, such as iPhone and laptops, will be excluded from the tariffs. This is a huge concern. Now, this week, as of basically 2 days ago, the last 48 hours of analysis show us that actually the U.S. consumer is incredibly concerned about medical devices, electronics that go into medical devices, and basically what will happen to the cost, the rising cost of medical insurance, healthcare insurance, and also just equipment, medical equipment in general. The second thing,
So Sveta, we're going to have to, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there for now. I mean, it's just such a heavy topic. There's so many different ways that we could break this down. The bottom line is, and I think the most telling statistic that you were able to come up with is that of those that you heard from, just 3% seem to be in support of what has been happening. So we'll put a link up if folks want to look at all the research. They are certainly more than welcome to do so. I sure hope they do. To Sveta Kalinska, my apologies, joining us now to break down some of the reaction to the tariffs. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.